SB 375 were adopted, so emissions, vehicle miles traveled, and other sustainable community issues were not yet being addressed. This bill, as amended, calls for providing, in addition to dealing with that legislation in a broad way, it calls for providing members of the public with greater transit choices throughout the 40-year plan earlier in the process rather than later in the process. It affects the 6 coastal lagoons by requiring that the construction be done one time at each lagoon, both the rail construction and the road construction, so we reduce the environmental impacts. It would Caltrans is right now deciding on the final preferred alternative, or at least the preferred alternative, let me put it like that. And a key part of this legislation, and we hope Caltrans is moving in this direction, is the 8+4 right-of-way, which is the smallest footprint that is allowed under the Transnet vote, if I can put it like that. That smaller footprint would accommodate our transportation needs, and it would also reduce the number of homes and properties that are taken from about 420 parcels to fewer than 10. So there are significant advantages. We've also included reference to Coastal Commission, both their balancing language and their Public Works plan that will allow the rail and the road project to be considered on a more expedited basis. 2 required hearings by the public, so the communities affected by this big project will have the ability to understand more about it. It is a candidate for suspense, but as I said, we have addressed major issues in the construction project and in the bill, and I think we want to hear from Sandag about what their position is. With me today is Jerome Stocks, the chairman of the Sandag board. Jack Dale's no longer here, but Jim Janey from the board is here, and Executive Director Gary Gallegos. I would ask for, well, not your aye vote because it's going to suspense, but your aye vote when it comes off to suspense. And I appreciate your patience with the presentation.
Witnesses in support.
Thank you, committee. I'm Jerome Stocks. I'm the Deputy Mayor of the City of Encinitas and the Chairman of the Board of the San Diego Association of Governments. A broad coalition of labor, business, and local governments in the San Diego region feel very strongly about the need to improve the North Coast Corridor in the San Diego region, and it'll help us with our needed jobs in support of our local economic recovery. Based on the commitments that Senator Kehoe has made to include the 8 technical amendments and 1 substantive amendment she referenced earlier, that have been identified by Sandag, we support SB 468 moving forward. Partnering on these amendments will allow the North Coast Corridor project, a cornerstone of our local Transnet sales tax measure, to move forward to provide hundreds of millions of dollars of transportation and environmental enhancements for the North Coast Corridor. And again, we'd like to thank Senator Kehoe and her staff for their work on the bill and look forward to continuing our discussions as the bill moves forward. And we thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Jerome.
Yes, Jim Janey, Mayor of Imperial Beach and Vice Chair of Sandag, and I really like to thank the Senator and the coalition that worked together to get this far. I think we have something that we can support in the future. Thank you.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, Gary Gallegos, the Executive Director, here supporting the board in their decision to support the bill.
Hey, there you go.
Other witnesses in support?
What's with Jack?
Madam Chair, Dave Ackerman representing the Associated General Contractors. I want to commend the author for working with us to work out the details. I think it was mentioned we just have 1 or 2 small things to work out, but based upon the commitments from the author on the bill, AGC is prepared to support the bill as it's going to be amended and recommend your support for it.
Jack, yeah.
I'm Jack Dale, Vice Chair of Sandag.
There you go.
How's that? Jack Dale, Vice Chair of Sandag, and here, as I think has been mentioned before, with the understanding the amendments are happening, we'll be in support of the bill.
Thank you.
Mark Smith on behalf of the American Council of Engineering Companies of California. While we don't have an official support position today, we do want to recognize the chair and her staff for working with us on amendments to this bill. We understand that there may be some technical amendments, maybe a substantive amendment or two, and we are looking forward to continuing the dialogue to make sure this is a bill we can support. Thank you.
Hugh Bauer on behalf of the City of San Marcos in northern San Diego County. Our position is consistent with that of Sandag. It's support if amended. We also represent the City of Lake Forest and Orange County, who had, up until now, an opposed position with concerns, and I will be in touch with them based on the amendments and see where they are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Endicott with Sierra Club, California. We're in support of the bill as it's written, and is with the intent that the author is trying to maintain, which is to keep the footprint as small as possible, make sure that mitigations and that the people have a choice in how they travel all go concurrently. Thank you.
Jim Medaffer, a past member of the Sandag Board of Directors and the chair of the Transportation Committee, and definitely support the bill as it is.
Thank you.
Chair, members, Rachel O'Brien on behalf of the California League of Conservation Voters and filling in for Jenna Price with the Planning and Conservation League. We are both in support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Steve Cruz on behalf of the California Building Industry Association. And while we have submitted a letter of opposition, it sounds like the amendments will go a long way toward addressing a number of our issues. We will continue to work with the author, particularly on the SB 375 linkages and how the VMT is determined, and do appreciate the Coastal Commission, the inclusion of the balancing factors. We think that significantly improves the bill. Thank you.
Any other witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition, I think, are all now in support. Finance? Nothing? Any questions of the committee? Would you like to close, Madam Chair?
I would ask for your consideration when it's on suspense, and then I will be waiving presentation on the other two, Madam Chair, SB 416 and SB 730. Thank you. I'm still eating. Senator Alquist has another one? Okay. Senator Corbett, you have
708?
Yes. Oh, yes. Just the one item,
Yes.
S708. And you may begin any time.
And it is a suspense candidate, so I will be brief. SB 708 is the Debt Settlement Consumer Protection Act. It establishes a licensing and regulatory program to protect consumers from predatory and dangerous practices used by some in the debt settlement industry. Senate Bill 708 fills gaps that are left open by the recently enacted Federal Trade Commission's rule regulating debt settlement, so that its provisions apply to all for-profit debt settlement companies operating in California. SB 708 also goes beyond the FTC rule by providing a fee cap on consumer savings and establishes a common sense rule to prevent companies from taking advantage of consumers who are struggling with debt. Hi.
I'm now the chair.
I'm like, oh, thank you. The costs of the regulatory program set forth in SB 708 are fully paid by licensing fees, so there should be no general fund cost. Nevertheless, we have submitted amendments to the committee to greatly reduce the costs in this regulatory program. The amendments would delay the implementation of the licensing program to 2014, remove references to enforcement duties and authority of the Attorney General, exempt debt relief services in conformity with the FTC rule, and we also accept two technical amendments from CARE 1 and the amendments would also reformat the notice given to consumers. I do know I've had an opportunity to speak to the chair about this measure, about some concerns that have been raised, and I look forward to conversations with regard to concerns while this bill is on suspense. With me today, I have Laura Flynn from the Center for Responsible Lending and Suzanne Martindale from Consumers Union, who are co-sponsors of SB 708.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There she is. I'll be very brief. My name is Suzanne Martindale. I'm a staff attorney with Consumers Union. We are proud to co-sponsor this bill. We're in very strong support. This bill, as Senator Corbett just mentioned, is working. We are working to make sure that it is entirely self-funded, does not provide any cost to the state. Also, having the requirements that are in this bill will reduce the costs that consumers have been incurring left and right by being signed up for very expensive debt settlement programs that provide them no benefit. And it is the belief of Consumers Union that by enacting a reasonable regime that places some basic requirements on debt settlement providers to, provide net tangible benefits to consumers, that'll keep more money in the pockets of consumers and enable them to contribute to the consumer economy. And that's just good for everybody here in the state. So we are in strong support, and we request your aye vote.
Laura Flynn, Center for Responsible Lending, co-sponsor. Thanks to the author and the committee for continuing to work with us, and urging aye vote coming off of suspense. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Additional testimony in favor? Is there opposition testimony? Okay, and we'll need those chairs. Thank you. Come on up.
Thank you.
Go right ahead.
Madam Chair, Honorable Committee, my name is Wesley Young. I'm here on behalf of TASC. We are a trade association for the businesses that would be regulated by SB 708. I'm here from Texas. I know I've only got a couple of minutes, but I want to make sure you understand how critical this is for us. We've identified 15 different policy issues, any one of which alone would make doing business in the state of California unviable in SB 708. Obviously, this has a large impact on the fiscal note. I have some numbers for you. We took a poll of our companies that are based here in California. We haven't got them all, but it's a significant portion, so it should help. What we did was we extrapolated the number to what we believe total California industry would be. So we believe we're about 20% of the industry. We've extrapolated that further on. So our members hire no less than 400 employees here in the state of California, which means that the industry at wide would hire more than 1,700 employees. With SB 708, our businesses would go away. Those jobs would be lost. Our members pay California payroll of over $31 million, which means the industry at large pays about $132 million in payroll. That payroll would be gone. Our members pay about $3.6 million in California taxes. So at industry-wide, that would be over $15 million in California taxes. Those taxes would be gone. So there's a huge amount of lost revenue to the state. This also hurts people in the state, not just the employees, but consumers. Our members and our industry services tens of thousands of individuals in debt relief programs right now. All of those, when the businesses go away, if SB 708 is enacted, those consumers will be stranded without anyone to work for them. It also takes away a future client's ability to enroll in our programs, which help them.
Let me just get a little more information about your trade association. How many companies do you have?
We used to have over 200 members total. Now we're down because of the federal rule. We've actually dropped down to less than 50 members now.
50?
50.
So because of the federal rules, you've gone from a couple hundred, did you say?
Yes.
To 50. And then you say this bill, if enacted, would shut down the rest of your businesses?
That's right.
And who are your three largest members? Do I know any names?
We have Freedom Debt Relief as one of our largest members.
Okay.
We have Debt America as another member. We have the data we got was from about 13 different companies based here in California. We have more members than that in California. We weren't able to get the data in time from all of them, though.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah. I think that the proponents have said that the bill will cover its own costs because of licensing fees. The problem is if we go out of business, we're not going to get licensed. If we don't get licensed, no one will be paying for the cost of administering the regulation. The FTC rule provides significant consumer protection already and has imposed, as you've heard, a significant cost, financial challenge to the businesses. And SB 708 would create an unsustainable business model for us and therefore unsustainable regulation under SB 708.
Thank you. Next, please.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Andrew Hauser. I'm actually the founder and CEO of Freedom Financial Network, Freedom Debt Relief that Wesley was referring to. We have 500 employees nationwide, 200 of them based here in California where we are headquartered. We're actually the first...
So you're the chief executive for Freedom
Financial Network, and Freedom Debt Relief is a
okay.
division of Freedom Financial Network, correct.
And you're in California and how many other states?
How many states do we offer services to, or how many states do we have employees in?
How many states do you have employees in?
In 2 states, Arizona and California.
Okay.
Actually, Illinois as well, but that's someone that's working for our California operations is based in Illinois. That's a technicality, but the FTC rule. We were the first company in the state that came out in public support of the FTC rule. We feel it provides significant protections to consumers. We think there are some exemptions and loopholes in the FTC rule, and if this bill were instead focused on closing those exemptions, closing those loopholes, we would be strong supporters. Instead, what I feel this bill does is it takes the good people who are trying to comply, who are not finding loopholes with the FTC rule, and just hammering the last nail into the coffin to the point that we can't survive. We would have no choice but to cease operations in California if this bill passed.
Why is that?
Why is that? Well, there are substantial policy reasons. The most significant reason is the fee cap is not sustainable.
Okay.
The FTC, as you may know, the FTC mandated an advanced fee ban, which says that we cannot charge a fee, not a cent, until after we get a result for a consumer. It's a substantial capital challenge, a substantial business challenge for us, but we support it, and we're going to live through it. But not if this fee cap gets thrown on top of it. There's a similar bill that passed in Illinois last year. Not a single company is licensed in Illinois. We are not licensed in Illinois. No company that is legally providing services is doing business in Illinois right now. So you'd create an entire regulatory infrastructure, and there'd be no licensees. And put thousands of hardworking Californians out of work. But before any members of this committee support a rule that...
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Excuse me for just a moment. I just want to let you know we did not get a letter from TASC.
All right.
And we also testified on the fiscal issues, not the policy issues. So are we going to reopen it up to policy issues after they're done?
I'd be glad to let you do it on your close, Senator, if that's all right.
All righty.
Okay.
So, well, I believe it is a fiscal issue if there's going to be a regulatory regime and no companies paying licensing fees under that regime and thousands of Californians out of work, I believe is a fiscal issue as well. And I encourage you before anyone passes, says yes on this bill and decides to pass a bill that will put thousands of people out of work, everyone on this committee is invited to come to our office in San Mateo and see what we do, understand what we do, see the thousands of letters we have on our walls from our customers who say that we've saved their families, saved their small businesses, saved their marriages. This is a much-needed service, and I urge you all to not pass this bill.
Thank you. Next, please.
Madam Chair and committee members, my name is Pat Zenzel. I'm here with KP Public Affairs. I'm here on behalf of Care One Services, Inc. I won't repeat the previous testimony. Simply speaking, we believe that this bill would set up a regulatory scheme that would be unsustainable based on the number of licensees that actually could work through the provisions of the bill, such as the fee cap that's in there and some of the other provisions. So for those reasons, we currently oppose the bill. We have not had an opportunity to see the amendments that were described in the opening, so we'd be very interested also in looking at those amendments. Thank you.
Next, please. Is there? Yeah, we need a couple of seats there.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Oh, no. Now I'm on. Madam Chair, members of the committee, John Moffitt on behalf of the United States Organization for Bankruptcy Alternatives. We represent a little over 60 companies involved in this area. We are opposed to the bill on the fiscal issues. The analysis anticipates about $1.1 million in annual costs that would be passed on to the licensees and anticipates about 40 licensees. We think that is very, very generous with the bill as written now. In addition to those costs, the other mandates of the bill add additional costs to those companies. We figure in about about $20,000 per year. And so on the fiscal issues, we're opposed to the bill, and also we'd be open to looking at the amendments that the senator described. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jim Lights representing Purcells and Associates, which is a national law firm that specializes in debt settlement. We were encouraged when Senator Corbett took amendments to exempt attorneys in the first policy committee. That's definitely a move in the right direction. We're still, at this point, opposed unless amended. The amendments allow attorneys to be exempted unless they specialize in debt settlement. So we are hopeful we can continue to work with the author and the sponsors and resolve that.
Thank you. Next, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, Brooks Ellison. Sorry I'm a little late. I came from another meeting, but on behalf of USCB, which Hospital Resource Management and Collections, but we're here in support and strongly urge your support of this bill.
You're in support?
In support.
Hospital, okay. And
thanks, Brooks. No, thanks for that.
All righty. And testimony? Okay.
No, I've already testified.
Let's hear from Finance.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, we have not yet received an estimate from the Department of Corporations. However, the bill does state that its costs would be fully recovered through the fees. Our staff has not been able yet to analyze or look into the tax implications that may result as a result of this bill.
So you're neutral?
We are neutral at this point.
All right. All right. So it is a candidate for suspense, and Senator, you wanted to address some additional issues. Go right ahead.
No, that's quite all right. I came here to testify on fiscal issues, and we already did that. And, just appreciate having a fair hearing on this measure. It's going to suspense, and look forward to working with you on any issues that may concern the chair or other members of the committee. But, it's really helpful, to know whether you're going to have a policy discussion or a fiscal discussion when you come into this committee and be treated fairly. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Senator Leno, you are up next. And are you presenting on both items?
Just on the due pass, which is SB 897.
Very fine. Okay, so we'll go to SB 897 now. And you're waiving suspense on the other. Thank you.
Correct.
Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee members, we're all well aware of the dramatic and heartbreaking phenomenon of the home foreclosure situation here in California, and it has not escaped over 8,000 residential care facilities for the elderly, which house about 170,000 seniors, about 60% of whom have some sort of dementia. In fact, according to the Department of Social Services, about 41 facilities have closed due to foreclosure just in 2009, 2010, but the number could be much greater because the state does not require that these residential care facilities provide any data to us with regard to their financial status or any challenges to their ability to continue to pay their mortgages. Oftentimes these are single-family homes with 6 to 8 residents in them. And of course, not only is this very traumatic for the seniors who are living in these homes, who sometimes, along with their families, find out about the foreclosure as the sheriff is knocking on the door, telling them they have to get out, and suddenly they're on the front lawn of these care facilities. There's significant transfer trauma that occurs, but it's also of expense to the state because it falls on us to help find new housing for these folks and the additional services that go along with them. So what the bill will do to address this situation is it will require operators of residential care facilities for the elderly to give notice to the state office of the long-term care ombudsman of specified events indicating that there is indeed financial stress that would threaten the housing security of the residents, and also require of these operators to give notice to community care licensing, residents and their legal representatives and families if there is a notice of foreclosure on the property, an unlawful detainer is issued against the licensee, or if the licensee files for bankruptcy. So we think this will not only benefit the residents, the families, but also the state in terms of expenses to Adult Protective Services and also the Attorney General's office. There is no opposition on the bill, and to date there are no oppositional votes. I would ask for your support today.
Thank you, Senator. We'll go to your witnesses.
Good afternoon. Tony Chicotel with California Advocates for Nursing Home Reform, one of the bill's sponsors. I defer largely to the committee analysis. I think it's spot on, but I will mention that the most recent amendment to the bill took community care licensing out of the notification process, except in instances of bankruptcy or foreclosure. And in those cases, community care licensing has already told their operators that those notifications are required, so we don't think that this will impose additional action on their part, and would also like to point out that there is the potential for savings with avoiding the situation with residents on the lawn being taken out by sheriff's officers, and then also there is some potential revenue with fines against people who do not comply with the notification. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Joe Rodriguez, California State Long-Term Care Ombudsman. I am in support of this bill. As you see in your analysis, there are some minor absorbable costs which we feel we can accept. I've made some suggested amendments to the author's office which would reduce those costs even further, and I ask for your aye vote.
Is there any additional testimony in favor? Is there any opposition? Seeing none, very good. Finance, no file on this. Members, I think, did I hear a do pass from Senator Walters? Is there any other comments? Yes, it's a rare day. Yeah, it's true. Senator Walters is moving a Leno bill. That's true. A Senator Leno bill. And with that, we'll call the roll.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Walters? Walters, aye. Alquist? Alquist, aye. Emerson? Emerson, aye. Liu? Pavley? Pavley, aye. Price? Price, aye. Runner? Runner, aye. Steinberg?
7-0, that has sufficient votes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator Walters.
Thank you, Senator Leno. Senator Pavley has one item that is a do pass, and then I think we can go to waive presentations, members, and complete the file, if possible.
Bye.
Is Ms. Skinner coming over? Is Ms. Skinner coming over? All righty. No, we don't have. Senator Pavley, go right ahead.
Yes, I'd like to begin, Senator Keogh, by accepting the committee's recommended amendments listed on page 1 in the analysis in order to specify that no current allocations of fine money will be inadvertently reduced. We're talking about above the current maximum fine money that goes to the Adult Protective Service Agency.
All right. And do we have the language on that? All righty, good.
Good to go then. This legislation, members, is co-sponsored by AARP and the California Senior Legislature and is aimed at preventing the physical and financial abuse of elder and dependent adults. This bill, some of you heard in the policy committees, is aimed at establishing basic protections for the issuance of signature stamps, as well as preventing all forms of abuse by increasing existing fines for elder and dependent abuse. The increase in fines would be allocated to the Adult Protection Services agencies in the county where the abuse occurred. As the analysis points out, since this is the fiscal committee, there are only minor and absorbable costs to the state and potentially increased revenues to counties associated with the enforcement of this legislation. I respectfully ask for your aye vote, and with me today is Ernie Powell with AARP, sponsors of the bill.
Welcome. We'll go to your witness.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Ernie Powell with AARP. As Senator Pavley indicated, this has the support of not only AARP, but also the California Senior Legislature, as well as the Congress of California Seniors, and a number of other organizations around the state. It is a very, very needed bill. 1 in 14 financial elder abuse cases are even reported in this country and in this state. This strengthens the abilities of counties to enforce the law around financial elder abuse. It also adds a needed protection in the case, as the Senator indicated, on signature stamps. So it's a good piece of legislation, and we ask for your support and your aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other testimony in favor? Is there opposition testimony? Come on up. And then we'll hear from Finance. All righty? Yes, sir.
Afternoon, Madam Chair and members. Alex Alanis with the California Bankers Association. Just briefly, we think the bill would actually result in less signature stamps being issued to customers. Signature stamps are a courtesy that banks give to their customers if they're unable to sign their name. We believe that there may be additional compliance challenges in the bill. Therefore, what is a current courtesy to the customers may become something that banks no longer issue. So we think it actually has the inverse intent of what they have on the bill. And then secondly, the bill only applies to state-chartered institutions, so we believe it establishes an unlevel playing field for small state-chartered institutions. With that, we oppose the measure.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Martha Flammer, representing Los Angeles County, in support. I apologize for the delay.
That's all right. You're in support. Then, let's see. Senator, is there any other testimony, pro or con? Seeing none, Finance?
We estimate that any costs incurred by the Department of Financial Institutions would be minor and absorbable.
Alrighty, thank you. And then Senator Pavley, do you want to respond to any of the
just briefly,
comments?
the reason it's state charter institutions, that's what we have jurisdiction over. We can't regulate the federal banks. And I had an amazing witness come forward. This is one of those pieces of legislation where you hear from a constituent about her mother losing $750,000 from someone who was taking care of her by fraudulently using just this $20 signature stamp to cash checks, open up Neiman Marcus accounts, wiped her out completely. And now this just closes a few of the loopholes. We did take many of the amendments from the opposition from the banking institution in the policy committees. This passed through Senator Vargas's committee with those amendments. I think it's a good consumer protection bill on a growing problem. It doesn't allow you to open accounts by mail and other things like that. These are just common sense protections in the best interests of very vulnerable people, not only elderly people, but of course I'm concerned about dependent adults that through mental incapabilities don't have the knowledge or foresight to monitor their financial situation.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Senator Alquist. With the amendments.
With the amendments.
We have a motion due pass. Any other comments, members? Then we'll call the roll.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Walters? Walters, no. Alquist? Alquist, aye. Emerson? Emerson, no. Liu? Liu, aye. Pavley?
Aye.
Pavley, aye. Price? Price, aye. Runner? Runner, no. Steinberg?
5-3. It has sufficient votes, but we will. Actually, I think only Senator Steinberg's absent. All right, then we'll close the roll on that one. Oh.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Pavley. Members, I think we're at only thing left is Assemblymember Skinner. She's in session. When she comes over here, we'll take her. I guess so. And we're going to do the waived presentations, all those items in which the author has waived presentations. So to those of you in the public who've come for bills, I'm going to call out the author, the bill number, and the subject. If you want to testify, come on up. That's why we're here. You're welcome to testify. We are at Senator Price, SB 538 on nursing. Is there testimony in favor or opposed to SB 538 by Senator Price having to do with nursing? All righty, that item goes to suspense. Also by Senator Price, SB 706 on business and professions. Testimony in favor or opposed? And finance, you're going to tell me if you have a file on these?
Correct.
All righty. That item goes to suspense. SB 733 on high-speed rail contracts. It's not the one, that's different from the one we heard. Okay. SB 773 on high-speed rail contracts. So it's different than the other high-speed rail bill, also on contracts that we heard from Senator Price. Testimony in favor? Opposed? Finance? That one goes to suspense. Last one by Senator Price, SB 756 on sex offender registration. Is there testimony in favor? Is there opposition? Finance, do you have a file on this? That item goes to suspense. I see Assemblymember Skinner, so we'll take up her one item. It is, I believe, the last item on the file. SB 1X, Bill 14. Welcome. You may.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. ABX 14 was one of the 4 bills in the Green Jobs package that our 2 House leaders, our Senate Pro Tem and our Speaker, put together and we passed in the special session. What ABX 14 does, and it was not originally my bill, it was originally a Senate bill, but in the package, the 2 leaders sort of divvied up the bills. And but what the bill does is fix a situation where in last legislative session, our houses and the governor signed into law a program called PACE. PACE would allow property owners, both residential and commercial, small commercial, to be able to make upgrades to their properties, energy efficiency upgrades, and to finance those upgrades through a mechanism in effect on the property, so that the payment could be made over a long term, and it was then be paid on a property tax bill. Since the mortgage crisis, we had a problem with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which stopped that program. So we worked with the Treasurer's Office, and this, as I indicated, was Senator Pavley's originally. But we worked with the Treasurer's Office to develop a program where private sector banks would make these loans available, administered by the Treasurer's Office. So that's what it is. It was a special session bill. We hope that it can get out fast into our floors so that we can put it on the governor's desk.
Thank you. This is a suspense candidate, significant costs, only $50 million. But are you a witness?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Yeli Savitagavric. I'm with the California Association of Realtors, and we're just here in support. This is a great idea to keep these programs going. Thank you.
Excellent. Any other testimony in favor? Is there any opposition? Finance, do you have a file?
The bill would increase already authorized administrative costs to $550,000 from $300,000 from the Renewable Resources Trust Fund. The increased cost would be assumed within the $50 million appropriated, already appropriated from the PACE, so moving it from one program to another.
All right. Members, this is a suspense candidate, so we'll deal with it over the next few days, and we'll take it up then.
Thank you. If I just may close, you indicated the significant cost, and as mentioned by Finance, this is cost that was originally appropriated and signed into law, but was not able to move through, so it is in effect just reauthorizing a program that the legislature and the former governor had already put into place, so it doesn't use different monies or new monies.
Right.
Thank you.
That's correct. But it's we still have that authorization in the bill. So we want to just point that out. It does meet the suspense criteria. We'll work with the author while it's in suspense.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Skinner. Appreciate it. Members, we're back to Senator Carol Liu. She has 2 items on which she has, or for which she has waived presentation. SB 64, having to do with school district test claims. Is there testimony in favor? Is there opposition testimony? Finance, no bill on or no file on this. That item goes to suspense. Next, Senator Carol Liu, SB 121, foster children and special ed. Are you testifying on this bill? Already. Is anyone testifying on this bill, pro or con? Seeing none. Finance, no file on this. We're moving on to Senator Emerson, who graces us with his presence this very moment. SB 127, official medical fee schedule. Is there testimony in favor? Opposition? Finance, you do have a comment on this?
At the time of our analysis, the Department of Industrial Relations had not provided us with a fiscal estimate. However, the bill's provisions, taking into account the bill's provisions, the Department of Finance estimates that the bill would have unknown but likely significant costs to the state to incorporate the annual changes to the the current procedural terminology codes into the OMFS.
Thank you. And that item goes to suspense. Next is Senator Hernandez, 4 items. SB 135 on hospice facilities. Is there anyone to testify for that? Any opposition? Come on up. Thank you for coming into the first row. Save us time.
Thank you. I'm Kelly Green with the California Nurses Association. CNA maintains a position of opposition to this legislation for 3 primary reasons. The first being staffing, and we have concerns about the provisions of the bill that would allow licensed vocational nurses to be solely in charge of patients within the facility. We have concerns about quality of care and whether or not they're adequately equipped to provide the proper levels of care for patients in the facility should acuity levels change, and whether or not they would be able to provide proper assessments and to respond adequately. Secondly, we have concerns with building standards in the bill, and although the latest amendments in Senate Health Committee do impose a bed limit, we do view these facilities as generally larger facilities than what we see for facilities that must abide by state fire marshal standards. Instead, we do believe that it would be more appropriate to apply OSHPD building standards for these facilities under the bill. And lastly, with regard to state regulations, recent amendments imposed a deadline for state regulations by 2016. However, we believe that for the safety of patients and just for parity, since all health facilities in California abide by state regulations, that the bill should require state regulations to be promulgated immediately. So for those reasons, we oppose the bill.
Thank you very much. That's opposition to SB 135. Any other testimony? Finance, you have a file on this that goes to suspense. Next item by Senator Hernandez, SB 393, medical homes. Please come on up. Pro or con?
Pro.
All
Madam
righty.
Chair, Tom Riley with the California Academy of Family Physicians. What SB 393 would do is to put into state law a definition of the patient-centered medical home. Patient-centered medical home is not a place. It's a set of best practices which, when adopted in a team healthcare delivery setting, results in better outcomes, savings of money, improved quality of care. Many other states, 47 other states, have enacted legislation relating to the patient-centered medical home. Many of those have put in a definition similar to what we are asking for here. It helps those states avail themselves of valuable federal dollars. It has been proven in those other states, as well as in California, to save a considerable amount of money. Urge your support.
Thank you. Other testimony in favor? Go ahead, sir.
Madam Chair, members, Robert Harris on behalf of California Society of Addiction Medicine. It's clear that coordinated care done right saves money without pinching providers, without pinching patients, and actually makes the whole system work better, and that's why we're in support.
Thank you.
Tricia
Ms.
Hunter, American
Registered nurse.
Tricia Hunter, American Nurses Association, California, and for all the reasons stated in support of the bill.
You are in support. Okay, all 3 in support. Any opposition? Seeing none, Finance, you have a file on this. The item goes to suspense. Next by Senator Hernandez, SB 690 on health care coverage. SB 690, testimony in favor? Opposed? Finance? That item goes to suspense. Last by Senator Hernandez, SB 703, health care coverage. Again, testimony in favor? Opposition? Finance?
Madam Chair, members, I don't have a fiscal estimate, but I do have a number of fiscal concerns with this measure, including that the administration of the BHP by Mr. Mibb conflicts with the administration's proposal, which proposes to eliminate the board as part of its May revise. The bill authorizes general fund loan for the BHP startup costs at a time when the other programs are being reduced. In addition, the bill allows up to 2.5 years to repay the loan. Any shortfall of federal and other funding for the BHP may put cost pressures onto the state to make up the difference, regardless of the bill's general fund protection provision, and the provisions of the bill that would allow Mr. Mibb to offer other benefits in addition to those benefits outlined by both federal care reform essential benefits package and the BHP would also put fiscal pressure on the state if existing fund sources are proved to be inadequate to support them. And finally, the bill would authorize an additional new large program at the same time of the creation of another new large healthcare bureaucracy known as the exchange, which would likely result in higher net costs than one single program.
Thank you. You sharpened your pencil on that one. All right. We're moving on to Senator Rubio now. This is SB 143, Greenhouse Gas Emissions Reductions. Testimony in favor? Opposition testimony? Finance, you have a comment?
The ARB estimates that it would require $761,000 from the Air Pollution Control Fund and 10.5 positions in 2011-12, and $218,000 from that same fund and 1.5 positions annually in 2012-13 and thereafter. The bill would require most of the work to be completed within 2011-12, and the out-year costs would be for periodic updates.
All righty. That goes to suspense, members. SB 240, this is on truancy and collective action. What does that mean in real life? Who's doing this? Jacqueline? Parents intentionally keeping their children out of school due to, a grievance or a collective action, like a protest. Is there testimony in favor of that? All right, or against it? Come on up, sir, and give us your position.
Madam Chair, John Lovell with the California Police Chiefs Association. We support this bill. It's a good sense bill.
All righty. Thank you. Is there any other testimony in favor? Any opposition? Finance, do you have that goes to suspense. Finance has no file on that. SB 600, Public Contracts, School Districts. Is there testimony in favor? Is there opposition? Finance, no file on that. That goes to suspense. Finally, by Mr. Rubio, SB 842, California residency. Testimony in favor? Opposition? No file from Finance. Goes to suspense. Senator Huff, this is on epilepsy medication in the schools. Senator Huff, SB 161. Is there testimony in favor or opposition? Come on up. No in favor? Opposition, come on up, and we'll take your comments. Go right ahead. You might as well get started.
Madam Chair and members, I'm Dolores Duran Flores.
Oh, yes, Senator Emerson is handing this out to us.
With the California School Employees Association. We have a number of policy concerns. We've written them, and they're outlined extensively in our letter. I'll just point out a couple. One is we don't believe that unlicensed classified school employees should be administering this invasive drug. We think that only licensed professionals like LVNs can do it. You can even look locally to examples where it's been successful. Folsom Cordova is actually using LVNs to perform this procedure, as well as Twin Rivers. So these school districts.
What jurisdiction is using it currently?
Folsom Cordova.
Oh, Folsom Cordova.
And also the Twin Rivers School District. They're using it correctly in terms of having licensed vocational nurses administer this drug. The other thing that we have concerns about is that it's allowing custodians, secretaries, food service workers who I represent to make medical assessments about whether or not a child can actually go back to school after getting one of these injections. We think that 911 should be called in every case, and that they're the ones who can appropriately decide whether or not a child needs to be hospitalized or returned to the classroom. We agree with all the fiscal costs associated with this bill outlined in the analysis. We think that you should consider a couple of others, though. The notification requirements in this bill we think will be extensive, as well as the substitute costs. You have to pay for a substitute employee to come in and cover while an employee actually goes and gets the training. Like, for instance, if it's a school bus driver, somebody actually has to cover the routes. So for all these reasons, we ask for your no vote.
Thank you. We will... Next, please.
Tricia Hunter, American Nurses Association, California, in opposition to the bill.
And the research we've looked into on LVN is basically the same price as of the certified employee. And so an LVN could be hired as a secretary in many of the positions that already exist to be able to legally take care of these children. Additionally, in any state that does use unlicensed personnel, they have a school nurse at the site that supervises, monitors, and backs up any unlicensed person doing that. In California, we have many school districts that don't have a school nurse in the whole district. We strongly oppose the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, Brooks Ellison on behalf of the United Nurses Association of California and Union of Healthcare Professionals in opposition.
Thank you. Next, please.
Madam Chair, members, Caitlin Vega for the California Labor Federation. We would agree with many of the issues raised. We think that there are many other options within the schools for how to ensure that kids are provided with the health care they need without lowering the standard of care and without putting employees in the position of having to take on medical tasks that they were not trained for and don't have background in addition to all of their normal duties. So for those reasons, we're opposed.
Thank you. Next, please.
Stephanie Roberson on behalf of the California Nurses Association in opposition. We think with all of the other avenues that my other colleagues had stated, using the LVN to be also a secretary, using parent designation, which we don't talk about a lot in this conversation, that already exists in existing law. You can have someone in the community trained to do this support work. So then you don't have the conversation of, we don't have someone on the school campus all the time. We don't have a problem with that. Someone who's dedicated, who knows the child, who can be on campus, coupled with an LVN, and who also is in the front office, can really get you the breadth of coverage that you need on these school campuses. Again, as Caitlin said, without lowering the standard. So we're in opposition.
Thank you. Next, please.
Dolores Sanchez, representing the California Federation of Teachers. We align ourselves with all the previous comments, and also I've been asked to convey the opposition of the United Teachers of Los Angeles.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, excuse me. So that is opposition. We asked for support. Finance, no file. The item goes to suspense.
I have a question.
Oh, yes. Senator Liu.
For any of the witnesses, I just had a question.
Would you want to hear from one of the witnesses?
Yes. So in the SACB editorial that was just handed out to us, it says that this drug was approved by the federal government specifically so that lay people can administer it. I just want to know if that was true or not.
We'll take a couple comments. We're not going to have everybody respond. So who's ever most briefed on it. Go right ahead.
Madam Chair, Stephanie Roberson with the California Nurses. We actually put on a clinic on this very issue with some folks who are very concerned about administering the diastat to school kids. And if you look at some of the manufacturer's recommendations, if you look at the at-home videos that have been sent out on this very medication, lay people, they really mean caregivers and parents. That's what they're talking about. They're not talking about classified employees who don't know the child, who has primary duties that they have to do on campus on an everyday basis. So when they say lay people, they're talking about parents who are intimately familiar with their child. That's what they're talking about. Thank you.
Anything else, members? This is a suspense candidate, so we'll deal with it in suspense. We're moving on now to Senator Strickland has one item. He waived presentation on SB 428. Public Safety Omnibus Bill. Any testimony in favor of SB 428? Is there any opposition? Finance, you have a comment? That's committee bill, goes to suspense. Senator Weiland has SB 228. State tax liens in the state regulations regarding tax liens. Testimony in favor? Opposition? Finance? That item goes to suspense. Senator De Leon has SB 343 on energy efficiency. SB 343 on energy efficiency. Testimony in favor? Opposition? Finance? Come right up. Tell us your name and what your... This is SB 343 on energy efficiency.
Okay, I'll wait.
You want the next one. Workers' compensation, also by Senator De Leon. It is SB 923. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
and members. Lori Kammerer, representing the Coalition for the Access to Care and the Coalition for the Diagnostic Services. We are opposed to SB 923. We feel that it's unnecessary. The AD already has the authority to modify the physician fee schedule, and this will limit the AD's ability to explore options other than the relative value resource-based schedule, which is what they're proposing that the AD adopt. Adopting the RBRVS essentially increases the reimbursement to one specialty on the backs of the other specialists, thereby creating an access problem and a set of unintended consequences. Studies done by the National Council on Compensation Insurance and the Workers' Comp Insurance Rating Bureau demonstrates that every 1% increase in cost created by access problems from reducing reimbursements will result in $150 million cost to the overall system, is what we found.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other testimony on SB 923? Workers' Comp by Senator De Leon. Finance, you have a file on this? That item goes to suspense. Next is Senator Dutton's SB 357, obsolete equipment and regulations by the state. Obsolete equipment, SB 357. In favor testimony, opposition testimony, finance. Item goes to suspense. We have three items by Senator DeSaulnier. SB 360, controlled substance review. Any testimony, pro or con? Finance, do you have a problem? No. Do you have a file? That goes to suspense. SB 394, Healthy Schools Act of 2011 by Senator DeSaulnier, SB 394. Testimony in favor, testimony opposed, and no file from Finance. So that will go to suspense. SB 906, incarceration of defendants. Testimony in favor, opposition, Finance. That item will go to suspense. Two items by Senator Wright and a governmental organization committee bill. SB 410 on energy and the peer program, public interest research. Any testimony in favor, opposition, Finance?
According to the Energy Commission, there would be no cost associated with this bill as it extends an existing program. However, the Department of Finance notes that the program is supported by the public goods charge, which is set to expire January 1, 2012.
All righty. There we are. Unless there's any comments, that'll go to suspense too. All righty. Next one is SB 530, satellite television taxation. Testimony in favor? Opposed? No Finance? No file? That goes to suspense. SB 938, governmental organization. This is a committee bill, state records. Testimony in favor? Opposition? Finance? Goes to suspense. And Kehoe, my bill on health surveys. SB 416 goes to suspense. Testimony in favor? Opposition? Finance, do you have a? Okay, that goes to suspense. And SB 730, electric vehicle pilot program. Testimony in favor? Opposition? Finance?
No file.
That also goes to suspense. Next is Senator Fuller, unclaimed property. SB 495. Any testimony, pro or con? Finance, you have a file? Go right ahead.
Per this SCO, the bill would result in delaying of the receipt of about $1.7 million in property from the safe deposit boxes beginning 2013-14, and would cause non-receipt of other property from safe deposit boxes compared to what would occur if the bill was not enacted. The Department of Finance is opposed to this bill unless it's amended.
Senator Runner, I'm going to do you next if you want to just hang for 30 seconds. Ken, go ahead.
We are opposed unless amended to delete the provisions that in the bill amend the Civil Procedures Code by adding 1576.5, and we understand that the controller is fine with deleting that provision.
All righty. That was Senator Fuller, SB 495. It goes to suspense. Next is Senator Runner, SB 699, graduation requirements for foster care. Is there testimony in favor? Any in favor? Any opposition? And Finance, do you have a comment on this one? Already, it goes to suspense, just so you were here in case. Thank you. That takes care of that page. Senator Walters, organized camps, SB 737. Is there testimony in favor? Opposed? Finance? That item goes to suspense. Senator Padilla has one item, SB 859, on confidentiality of electric vehicle records. Is there testimony in favor? Opposition? Finance? No. That goes to suspense. Next, we have Senator Liu, Ted Liu, that is SB 755 on school safety plans. Testimony in favor? Opposition? Finance? That goes to suspense. Senator Leno has one, SB 790, community choice aggregation of electricity. Is there testimony in favor? Opposition? Finance?
The CPUC estimates that it would not have any additional costs as a result of this measure.
It goes to suspense. And then now we have just Mr. Perez. He waived presentation. Sorry, I wasn't looking at the fine print. So this is SB 1X, Bill 13, Renewable Energy Resources. Anybody in favor? Opposed? Finance?
Madam Chair, the bill does authorize the fee of $50,000 and up to $200,000, but we do have concerns that the provisions of the bill on page 12 authorize the department. It says that the department may collect up to the $200,000 for actual costs. And so that raises two concerns. One, that the actual costs of the Department of Fish and Game would not be fully covered because it is permissive and not mandatory. And the second provision is that by requiring it to be actual costs instead of estimated costs, we won't know until after the work has been completed what those costs are, thereby leaving a gap in the Department of Fish and Game's budget until such time as all of the work has been completed. And then our final comment is that again, the public goods charge does sunset on December 31st, 2011.
That item goes to suspense. Members, that completes the file. I would ask you to please, we're going to go over all the bills that are due pass. If you missed a vote, you can add on now. Otherwise, yes, it went to suspense. Where is that one? Yes, state tax liens, it is in suspense. All righty, then we'll go over the due pass if there's any absences, members, and then I'm going to close the rolls. So is everybody here? What happened to Senator Runner? Okay, could one of the sergeants please check? And we're going to close the roll. So if you step out, I'm sorry, but I've been here all day. All right. We are at SB 628 by Senator Yee, acupuncture regulation. Call the absent members. Oh, it's Kehoe, aye, and Walters, no. The vote is 3-3.
Liu? Aye. Liu, aye. Pavley? Aye. Pavley, aye. Steinberg?
5-3. That's 5-3. It has sufficient votes. Next is Senator Price, public. Oh, no, Cal Grant. Senator Alquist, SB 760. This is changes to the Cal Grant program. And the vote is aye. Kehoe, aye. Walters not voting. I'm not sure you were here. And the vote is 4-1. Please call the absent members.
Walters? Emerson? Liu? Aye. Liu, aye. Steinberg?
5-1. That has sufficient votes. Senator Price, SB 294, public employee retirement. The vote is 3-3. Kehoe, aye. Walters, Walters, no. Please call the absent members.
Alquist, aye. Pavley? Aye. Pavley, aye. Steinberg?
5-3. That has sufficient votes. Next, by Senator Price, dentistry, SB 540. Kehoe, aye. Walters, no. The vote is 3-3. Senator. Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Okay. 540. This is dentistry. SB 540, 80. Okay, we can. That has sufficient votes. Walters was I. In fact, beg your pardon.
Just want to make sure.
She moved a Price bill and a Leno bill?
Yeah. It's a historic day.
Okay, I'm going to get the CD. All right. So that one is good. Now we were at the bottom of the page. Senator Anderson, Gaming Policy Advisory Committee. Is that right? Oh, okay. I missed one. We also have Lowenthal, SB 132. This is the vote. First of all, it's state planning for school facilities. The vote is 4-3. Kehoe, aye. Walters, no. Call the absent members.
Pavley? Aye. Pavley, aye. Steinberg?
So now it's 5 to 3.
5 to 3, that has sufficient votes. And next is Senator Anderson, Gaming Policy Advisory Committee. The vote is 7-0. I'll call the absent members.
Pavley? Pavley, aye. Steinberg?
8 to 0, that has sufficient votes. All righty, now we have Senator Semidian, SB 514, on the drug dextromethorphan. And we've been waiting for you. Senator, this is Senator Semidian's SB 514. The vote is 2-0. The chair is aye, and the vice chair is not voting. Please call the absent members.
Walters? Alquist? Aye. Alquist, aye. Emerson? Liu? Aye. Liu, aye. Pavley? Pavley, aye. Runner? Steinberg? Aye. Steinberg, aye.
6 to 0, that has sufficient votes. Next is Senator Strickland. This is congregate living facilities, Santa Barbara County only, SB 177. The vote is 8-0. Chair and vice chair, aye.
Steinberg? Aye. Steinberg, aye.
9 to 0, that has sufficient votes. Senator Hancock, corrections. You agree? What happened with this one? Senator Hancock, was that not a suspense item?
I think it went on to suspense.
We sent it to suspense? Oh, it is in suspense. We're not going to take a vote on it. It's in suspense. Sorry, I didn't make my notes correctly. The next one is remote caller bingo by Senator Woke, SB 340. 7-0. Vice chair and chair are both aye. Call the absent members.
Pavley? Aye. Pavley, aye. Steinberg? Aye. Steinberg, aye.
9 to 0.
9 to 0. Next is Senator Pavley herself. Is that right?
Yeah, Wilkes 594 got out on a 5-3 vote. So next is Pavley.
Was that the direct caller bingo? Oh, you're right. Local public health laboratories. Members, we're on one more woke bill, please. SB 594 on public health laboratories with amendments. It was a due pass 9 to 3.
Or 5 to 3 currently.
Oh, yeah, that's right. 5 to 3. Kehoe, aye. Walters, no. Call the absent members.
Steinberg? Aye. Steinberg, aye.
Okay, now it's 6 to 3, and that has sufficient votes. Next one is Pavley Banks Credit Unions and Signature Stamps.
Yes.
This is 5 to 3. Kehoe, aye. Walters, no. Call the absent members.
Steinberg? Aye. Steinberg, aye.
6 to 3.
6 to 3. That bill is out. Senator Correa, Administrative Procedures, SB 643, 8 to 0. Chair and vice chair voting aye. Call the absent members.
Steinberg? Aye. Steinberg, aye.
9 to 0.
9 to 0. That bill is out. Senator Leno, is that the last one?
Yes.
Or is Lamalfa? No, Lamalfa went to suspense. Senator Leno has one SB 897, residential care facilities. The vote is 7-0, and the motion was by Walters.
That's right. Don't you forget it.
I'm not going to forget it. That's why I keep saying it. Leno Residential Care Facilities, 7-0. Chair and Vice Chair, aye. Call the absent members.
Lou? Aye. Lou, aye. Steinberg? Aye. Steinberg, aye.
We are at the end of the day, members. Thank you all for hanging in there.
Good job.
Senator Steinberg, you still have to add on to a couple, but I think the file is... Did we get him on everything?